How many of you remember things called blue laws? I kind of date you. Blue laws were written to prohibit activities on Sunday, like mostly buying and selling things. I grew up in a small town on Route 66, and everything shut down on Saturday night late, except for a couple of cafes and a couple of filling stations that stayed open on Sunday. But you couldn't buy a magazine, you couldn't go to the store to get milk, diapers. You couldn't buy much of anything unless the gas station had it. And even the gas station had some items that they're not supposed to sell on Sundays. Sundays was in that culture, and it was kind of here too, I'm sure. Just pretty much church day. There were no kids' sports activities on Sundays. Maybe there was a professional or club baseball on Sunday afternoon, but not much was going on. And we couldn't do much at my house on Sunday, maybe go visit or whatever, but there was not supposed to be any really work done. Now, I guess homework was okay, but no working in the yard. And my dad didn't think a good thing about people who were mowing their yard on Sundays. And so usually we went to a church on Sunday night, and you may have heard my story. And church attendance was kind of falling off on Sunday night, and then this NBC show called Bonanza came out in about 1960, and that just kind of went to the top of the charts, and it was on at the same time church was on Sunday night. And pretty soon, hardly anybody was coming to church because they had to stay home. Of course, you didn't have DVR, so you either watched it or you didn't. And anyway, so we decided that maybe the Spirit was leading us to say we don't really need to go to church on Sunday night. Anyway, so Sundays at one time were definitely a different day than now. Because, I mean, you got kids' activity. I've heard a story of hockey on Sunday morning. My grandson, real involved in travel ball. Some weekends, gone all weekend. That's just reality. We pick up this little clip here, and Jesus is in a synagogue, a place of worship in his time. It was a place where things were taught, and it's the Sabbath day. Now, the Sabbath in his culture started at sundown on Friday and went to sundown on Saturday. But we kind of still think of our Sundays as a Sabbath day, a day set aside. And so a woman has come in, Jesus noticed, she's all bent over, and he feels her pain and heals her. And she was able to straighten up, and everybody was amazed because for 18 years they had known her as the bent over woman. And she noticed that one of the official guys with the big beard and the fancy dress said, "Why are you doing this today? This is a sacred day, and this is a sacred place. You can do your work on the other 6 days." And Jesus' response was, "This daughter of Abraham has been set free. She is a holy day person. She's come on a holy day, and indeed she is holy. Why not let her do that?" Be healed. If I could get someone to kind of pass these out. This is a bulletin from the first service, and I just wanted you to see the picture on the front of it. You'll have to share. Apparently, most of them went home with people today, so we just look at the picture of someone who is a young person who is carrying something impossibly heavy. And on that are names of things that are burdens. Got a couple extra? Yeah, thank you. We'll have to share or something. Sorry about that. Look at what some of those words are. Family. Is family ever a burden? Job. Debt. Finances. Car. House. What else do you see on there? What should be on there but isn't? Is guilt on there? Confusion? Lack of direction? No vision? Lots of things could be on there that are truly burdens in our time. Somebody asked me yesterday if I was going to be preaching today. I was gone last week. And I said, yes, although I may just kind of talk, or I may decide to go to Midland. The women of the New Testament were definitely second-class citizens. It was a time of patriarchy. That is, men were in charge. And women didn't have too many rights. Sometimes they were treated as property. They couldn't sign contracts. If there was a death in the family, the women had to be taken care of by another relative. It was not a real pleasant time for most women. Now we have examples of other women in the Bible that were merchants and had income and so on like that. But generally, women were second-class citizens. Well, that's all gone now, right? Well, except for the fact that, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2019, women earn 79 cents for every dollar a man earns in the same job. And women earners tend to peak their earnings at age 40, while men continue their earnings to grow until age 49. Way back, a long number of years ago, when movies were big things, there was this immensely popular couple of dancers and actors named Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire. And Fred Astaire was just this notable dancer. He was very gifted. Ginger Rogers, very much the same. And they became dancing partners, and they were very popular. And they appeared in movies in which there was some kind of story going on. But eventually there would be a dance or so. It was said that Ginger Rogers did everything that the acclaimed Fred Astaire did dancing, except she did it backwards and in high heels. And isn't that how a lot of women in the workforce feel today? It's a story of an anonymous woman, crippled, weighted down. A nun who writes these days, Miriam Therese Winter, said, surely you, talking about Jesus, meant that when you lifted her up long ago to your praise, compassionate one, not one woman only, but all women bent by unbending ways. Luke's Gospel is the only one that has this story. But Luke has a lot of stories about healing and a lot of stories about women. He says that this woman had a spirit of infirmity. Now that maybe is different than saying she was infirm. Maybe her physical manifestation of this being bent over was because of some mental or psychological state. Now, physical symptoms can be caused by mental distress, emotional pushing around by all kinds of forces. People faint, have seizures, paralysis, blindness, hearing loss, loss of speech, muscle weakness, difficulty swallowing because of extreme mental or spiritual distress. We have sayings in our language, paralyzed by fear. Anybody ever experienced that? You could hardly move because you were so afraid. Or they said if someone died of a broken heart, usually because they had lost someone that was close and they really never got over it. Or she worried herself sick. Yeah. A spirit of infirmity, a spiritual problem is making herself sick. No way to know what caused that problem 18 years ago. But whatever it was, here was this poor woman bent over. She couldn't look anybody in the eye. The best she could do, as Jen Somerville says, she could look somebody in the knee. I think something happened. Something that distressed her. Something she did. Or maybe more likely, something that was done to her and she felt guilty and ashamed. And she couldn't look at people in the eye, and she lowered her head. And it just kind of continued until she became the bent-over woman, hobbling around town using a short stick. And it says that Jesus sees the woman. Now, we don't have that today because it's a picture of what happened. But the text says he sees her. I've been doing some work trying to recharge our youth program here, and I was reading some material about middle school kids. And, you think, ideally, you got a little middle school child, and you got somebody maybe not too much older than them working with him. What I was reading said that middle school kids will go to the oldest person in the room that listens to them and takes them seriously. Jesus sees her. A lot of people overlook her because she's bent over. They don't see her face. But he sees her, and he has that ability. And I'm wondering if he was here today, if he was the guest preacher, and he would look out at those of you who are here and be able to see you. Really see what burdens you're carrying around that you don't need. What are the heavy things that are pushing you down that are just totally unnecessary? He took the initiative, and the woman responded to the initiative. She was able to raise up. Is it possible for us to do the same? Jesus would say, come, be healed, be saved, be forgiven, get you on your feet, and rise. And he says, woman, you are set free from your infirmity. Free. What do you have that's pushing you down that you can be set free from? It was a controversy. You shouldn't be healing on this day in this place. And then Jesus said, well, look, you have animals. You untie your ox and take it from the manger, which is a feeding trough, to the watering place. Doesn't that work? Isn't that okay? Always an example of what was the reality. Isn't it more important that we don't worry about the law and we worry about this person in distress? Almost 350 years ago, a man named John Bunyan, an Englishman, wrote an allegory called Pilgrim's Progress. It was the first novel written in English. And he wrote it at a time when there was a lot of trouble and controversy in the religious world in England, 1678. And it's a story of a man named Christian who travels from his present day troubles toward the celestial realm, like representing heaven, and the people that he meets along the way. But it starts out, Christian has this huge burden strapped to his back, and it's heavy, and he struggles along, and as he journeys, he comes to a place in the road where there is a cross. And at the foot of the cross, that heavy load falls from his back and miraculously opens up into this pit that's bottomless and is gone forever. And for the first time in the story, he's able to stand up straight. You know, this is an allegory. It's representing things. And it says at the foot of the cross, Christians are set free. Now, maybe that's just an old-fashioned idea. It's a book that was written 100 years ago. But what if it's true? What if Jesus still has the power to release you from the things that burden you? The things that bend you over? The things that have happened to you? Well, maybe some were a bit your fault, but many things were not your fault. But they left a mark. What if he is calling you now, and here is a cross, calling you now to put your burden down in front of it? It won't leave a mark, except it will change you. You're invited to come and share in communion today. This is our response of taking on a tradition that Jesus started with his disciples. The last time he was with them all together and left them some helps in terms of how do we go on when he's not here. And he said, take bread and break it and share it. And remember to tell people This represents my body. I'm with you. A cup. We dip the bread into the cup here. Just a way to share a little bit of the contents of that cup. To remember the Spirit that was in Jesus. Again, that He is with us. Let us remember. And and then symbolically, if you want to think about when you come here to receive communion, what you can leave that will lighten your load. Let us come to this table.